started the sustainability committee, so this is all part of it.
Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. Oh, sorry. I'm not super.
Yeah. It's all part of the master
Yeah.
plan.
I know. I was having a conversation with, but you're not very much like a keystone. I feel like the web emanates.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to get us started? Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Public Square. This is hosted by the Center for Civic Engagement here at WSU. And thanks to the Cub for this amazing room and space and support for the live stream. Today's Public Square is about Earth Day. And we have some fantastic panelists that have joined us here today. I'm going to introduce them starting from closest to me to farthest away. So Colin Anderson is the Madagascar project manager for the Phoenix Conservancy. He oversees restoration of the Ivui Boar forest in Madagascar, where Phoenix is incorporating biochar into rainforest nucleation plots and a charcoal briquette program to reduce deforestation. He also assists with Phoenix's biochar project on the Palouse. Colin is an alumnus of WSU's graduate school with a master's in natural resource sciences. Allison Monstratolo is a native Washingtonian and a proud College Hill resident. Allison has an educational background in sociology and politics with a BA from Whitman College and an MA and PhD from the University of Arizona. In addition to serving on the Pullman School Board, she is a founding member of Pullman's Historic Preservation Commission and currently serves as a co-chair of the College Hill Association Board of Directors. Allison is employed in the curriculum area of WSU Office of the Registrar. Nathan Enos is a current student at WSU pursuing a Master's of Education in Environmental and Natural Resource Sciences. Their research focuses on the efforts of collaborative participation and value added from interdisciplinary methods within collaborative governance decision making. Nathan currently serves as the Community Partnerships Graduate Assistant with the Center for Civic Engagement. Previously, Nathan has worked with the Pullman 2040, an environmental collaborative in Pullman, serving as the environmental steward for a task force of 23 environmentally minded organizations. Stevie Fawcett, originally from Bend, Oregon, Stevie majors in microbiology and Spanish with minors in German and jazz studies at WSU. He loves research and has experience working with the Goodman Lab and has pursued his main research interest in virology with WSU's Lab of Functional Viromics. Stevie has an abiding interest in foreign language and culture and hopes to live in South America after earning his degree. I am Meg Pancook. I'm the Community Partnerships Coordinator at the CCE and will just be moderating today's panel discussion. So, thank you all for coming. I thought, well, thank you. So before kind of moderating today's panel, I kind of just looked into the history of the very first Earth Day just to kind of remind myself. And there's tons of interesting information that I had forgotten and some that I didn't even know. So I thought I'd just share a tiny snippet about Earth Day and its history before we jump into the panel discussion. So the story of the very first Earth Day and its lasting impact is quite amazing. The very first Earth Day took place in 1970 after a massive oil spill off the coast of Santa Barbara, California in 1969, inspired bipartisan efforts to organize a teach-in at universities across the country. When it was all said and done, 20 million Americans participated in the first Earth Day in 1970. And because the event achieved a rare political alignment, by the end of 1970, Earth Day had led to the creation of the US EPA and the passage of other first-of-their-kind environmental laws like OSHA and the Clean Air Act. In 1990, Earth Day became an international event and is now widely recognized as the largest secular observance in the world and is marked by more than 1 billion people every year as a day of action. So pretty exciting. And I hope you all do something fun this Saturday. Okay, so my first question is just to pose to all of the panelists. How is Earth Day relevant to you? We'll start with you, Cullen, and just work our way down.
Okay. All right, cool. Sounds close enough. Sweet. Okay. So Earth Day for me it's a great day for service. And I've certainly participated in events over the years, from recycling drives to going out and planting plants and whatnot. But for me, most importantly, it's a day of sort of reflection and a reminder to get outside and actually appreciate The environment, the time of year that it is, spring is, I mean, of course, gorgeous, but it's also really, really busy for most people, and especially for me in grad school over the past few years. And so it was sort of a reminder of like, okay, wait, I can take a day to get outside and like calm down and just focus on that and forget about everything else that I'm distracted by. So.
I really couldn't say it better than that. Over the years with College Hill Association, we've had a number of service projects on Earth Day. It's typically a day when we can bring groups of students, sometimes organized groups, sometimes independent students, and just get them all out for an hour or two, cleaning up the neighborhood, taking that opportunity to make a direct neighborhood action to improve the neighborhood. So that's exciting for me and for our mission.
All right. Not to sound like a complete echo chamber here, I agree with everything that has been said, but also Earth Day for me is a great way to sort of realize the power of collective action, being able to see a problem that persists either locally, statewide, or globally, and see the power of people coming together to address a problem. So being able to reflect on that, see that for myself, and see the power of both individual action inside a greater collaborative.
Yeah. I really like this question. I mean, once again, everything that's been said has been really great. But from my perspective, so I'm the chair of ESA, Environmental Sustainability Alliance at WSU. And so we're just a bunch of students that care about the environment. And so Earth Day is just a really great opportunity for us to do some community building as well as give back to the community in which we live, which I think is really great because ESA has a long history of doing a bunch of events, not just on Earth Day, but for Earth Week, on just the month of April in general. And so, just having that day as something everybody recognizes is really great for us because we can get a whole bunch of people on board with our different projects, different awareness campaigns, etc. So it's just a really awesome opportunity for us.
Awesome. Thank you all. Yeah, just really nice to hear such kind of alignment, I guess, amongst the panel, but it's just a great time to just come together, get outside and do something that's meaningful. I think this takes us nicely right into our next question that I'm going to pose to both Stevie and Nathan. How do you find ways to get involved in the community that align with your values? And maybe you both could think about or tell us about like a story of a specific time you went out and did something that felt meaningful to you. How did you find that thing, and how could you maybe share strategies to get involved in ways that kind of build on those values, those internal values you have?
Go for it.
Awesome. Yeah. So the really nice thing about being a student at Washington State University is that WSU gives a lot of resources to its students to carry out their missions. So for me, I've been really interested in the environment ever since high school. I was in AP Environmental Science, and I just started learning about all the different stuff that's happening across the world and the climate emergency that we're in. And so after that, I decided to kind of go ahead and create a club that could make a at least small contribution to solving the climate crisis. And then once I got into WSU, I was really pleased to learn that there's multiple organizations that do a similar thing. One of the biggest ones is ESA. So I joined ESA in my freshman year when we were all online. And so at my first meeting, I think there was like 5 people just sitting in a Zoom room. And it was really cool to see that, the students were still involved even online. And so then my sophomore year, when I got to be the chair of ESA, we were all back in person and started growing ESA once again. And so for me, I found my opportunities just through the structure that WSU has already placed and being able to build that community, that organization, and then go ahead and, make stuff happen because they do give us a lot of opportunities, a lot of resources, a lot of financial resources to do the things that they know students care about. And so that's just been really great for me. So every year we do a whole bunch of Earth Week events. Like last year, I think we did like a trivia night. We had Bill Shireman, who was an awesome speaker, come and talk. This year we're having Jeffrey Hick from U of I come talk on Sunday. Quick plug, it's in the junior ballroom at 6:30 on Sunday. But, doing those things as well as cleanup events, doing our projects. We're building a community garden, doing a recycling campaign, fossil fuel divestment campaign. All that stuff has been, through ESA and through this group that we've built because of the infrastructure that WSU has placed before us. So I'm just really grateful for that. And that's just what I've been able to do.
Yeah, wonderful. Something that I would definitely add to that as far as my own experience is looking towards my own personal values and then applying that towards the community in general. I've had a lot of experience going out and finding myself in new communities post-graduation, moving to a different school or community for undergraduate, then finding a job in a new city. And through those events, like any sort of event that you would go out to and see a tabling event, being able to spot those groups that are out there talking about specific events and just being a curious individual is sort of the best way that I find ways to find those events. One of the things that was more impactful to me was I have a passion for recycling and how those processes work. And when I was out, I had moved out to Pittsburgh for a fellowship out there, and getting a chance to work with the resource committee out in that community to process all of the waste from one of the local marathons on Earth Day. And then in that moment, I'm surrounded by people I don't know, but we're all have that singular vision or singular passion of we want to reduce the waste from this event. And you build those relationships, build those communities, and then move on from there. Then you're on those mailing lists, you can talk with them and just build that sense of community from that event, and they can just produce that change throughout your time there.
Awesome. Thank you both. My next question is for Allison. Allison, there is an event this weekend, Pizza for the Planet, that you are hosting in collaboration with Phoenix Conservancy, ESA, ASWSU, and CCE. I was wondering if you want to take a little moment to share about the event, and then also maybe share kind of how it came to be, how you all kind of came together to come up with this idea for the event this Saturday.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I think I'm going to start by telling the story of how it came together, and then I'll tell about the event, because actually Cullen was just asking me. Cullen just got back from Madagascar and found out he's doing this event and knew nothing about it. So he actually was asking me before we started today, how did this get started? So I'll just flash back. Before the pandemic, the College Hill Association has always had student board members. Plug for student board members. We're always interested in new ideas. And we had some great students who, Meg, you probably wouldn't remember, I don't think you were around, but Dave will remember, KJ Fitzgerald and others who were active in a number of different groups on campus. And they worked with us, and they also worked with the Phoenix Conservancy, and they also worked with ESA, and they also worked with a group that I still haven't met or reached out to, which is the Hammock Club. I'm not familiar with this group, but that was another one that they cared about because of trees. And they were really passionate about these groups. And I really treasured my relationship with these students. And I was always very interested to hear what they were getting out of their different experiences working with these groups that they would talk about so passionately. And so for years, I was very, very curious about the Phoenix Conservancy. And I kind of was getting to know the executive director a little bit from afar, and we kept saying, oh, we've got to get together, we've got to collaborate on something, and we just didn't know what. So finally, over Christmas break this year, we got together at Crybaby, and we just sat down and we hashed out what could we do to bring our groups and our kind of our mutually sympathetic populations together in a project. And he said, we are really interested in biochar. And I was like, I don't know anything about, I don't even know what biochar is. This is not relevant to me, but I'm down. What can we do? And so we said, let's create a biochar pilot project. And how can we limit the scope of it in such a way that it's accessible to everybody? How can we make it very understandable and limit it to one day focus? Let's do it on Earth Day. what could we do to limit the project? And we said, we're going to focus on pizza boxes, one object, because as a member of the community, I can say pizza boxes are a real challenge. Pizza boxes, unlike other kinds of cardboard, are not recyclable because they're contaminated with grease. So sometimes people tell you to stick those in the recycling. They're wrong. A greasy pizza box is basically ruining your recycled paper product right there. So they can't go in the recycling. They are garbage. They're bulky. Something needs to happen with them. And Chris patiently explained to me that all biomass can be turned into biochar. So even things that are normally not compostable because they're tainted with animal products or grease or things like that, they can be, through processes that we will learn about later, converted into biochar. And so we decided to do this Earth Day project. And I said, well, we've got to make this accessible somehow to students. Let's have it at Ruby Street Park. So for anybody who doesn't know, Ruby Street Park is a park that is maintained by ASWSU. It's not a City of Pullman park. It's a student-maintained park in a central part of the College Hill neighborhood, which for College Hill Association, that's where it would have to be for me to care about it, right? It has to be on College Hill. So we said, yeah, we've got to have it in Ruby Street Park. So we reached out to ASWSU and said, can you reserve the park for us? And ASWSU said yes. And we said, we've got to have ESA be part of this, going back to the theme of this all ties together. So we reached out to Stevie and said, can ESA be a part of this? Can we have it as part of Earth Week? Can we just bring this all together? And so a group of us started talking about it every few weeks for like the last several months, what this project would look like. And it was actually ASWSU, Luke, who came up with the idea of calling it Pizza for the Planet. I mean, Chris and I were calling it Earth Day Biochar Project, pilot project or whatever. So that is, now I forgot what was the actual first part of the question. That is the story of how we, the event itself.
Yes.
Yes. So the event itself, what that looks like, what we've been doing is we've been trying to advertise it. It's on ESA's social media. It's in every possible way that we can, including on pizza boxes. When people buy a box of pizza, there should be a flyer, if it comes from certain restaurants, on the top of it that says, please save this box. This has been going on all throughout the month of April, encouraging people to save the box and then bring as many boxes as you can to Ruby Street Park on Saturday between noon and 4. And what will happen there is there will be volunteers led by the Phoenix Conservancy who will collect the boxes, and we'll learn more about what happens to the boxes after they're collected later. But what's exciting about this event, how we're promoting it, is there are lots of prizes and incentives for getting involved. So pizza businesses in town have been gracious enough to donate lots of certificates for free pizzas. So we'll have everybody who comes by to drop off a used pizza box can enter these drawings. And at the end, we'll have drawings for free pizzas. We'll have drawings for some other goodies and prizes. And then we especially want to reach out to Greek chapters. So I've been trying to contact Greek chapters. The College Hill Association is offering 2, I think, very generous philanthropy prizes. One is a random drawing. Every Greek chapter that submits a minimum of 5 pizza boxes can be entered into a random drawing for a $100 donation to their philanthropy of choice. So, if 20 chapters enter, that's odds are 1 in 20, one of them will walk away with this $100 prize. And then the other one is a straight contest. The chapter that donates the most used pizza boxes also can get a $100 donation to their philanthropy of choice. And that's just a way to promote this event and really try and get buy-in from the Greek communities that are clustered right there around in the neighborhood. That would be easiest for them to contribute and really make a difference in the success of the event. What we're really hoping is that if it is a success, that there could be more more opportunities for events like this, or maybe even a permanent facility that could accept used pizza boxes and create a more sustainable kind of food industry waste products. So that's kind of an overview of what will be happening at the park, and a big encouragement to please get started. Yeah.
Yay, awesome. Thank you, Allison. Next question's for Cullen. Thank you for being patient as we come back around to you. But mainly, we just would love to hear a little bit more about biochar. Give us maybe the intro to biochar. And then also maybe if you can, like why is biochar a big focus of Phoenix's efforts and an effort for Earth Day this year specifically?
Perfect. I can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
All right. So I brought a visual aid. You're absolutely welcome to come up after this to take a more close look. But this is a little baggie filled with biochar. So biochar, it's sort of like the eco word for basically it's just like finer particulate charcoal. It's just charcoal. This is just sticks that we set on fire, basically. So every time you make a campfire, any of the sort of charred material that's left in the bottom, like that's biochar, basically. So there's nothing fancy, like it sounds fancy, there's nothing fancy about it. But it's an amazing material in that it makes a great soil amendment, which is why Phoenix is interested in it. And so soil amendment, we amend the soil with it, we add it to soil. And basically what it does is it acts as a sponge so that the soil can retain more water. More water means that plants have more water available to grow. So it boosts plant productivity, which is good for our restoration purposes in terms of restoring Palouse Prairie. But it's also very applicable to agriculture in terms of applying it to fields. So it'll boost crops as well. And the connection with pizza boxes is that biochar, as Allison mentioned, can be made from any organic material. So, I mean, like I've seen people take, this is a little grim, but bones from like slaughterhouses and stuff, like the leftovers from that, you can charcoalize bones and make biochar with it. We are not doing that. We only use plant matter. And I guess maybe if there are any bugs in there as well, unfortunately. But essentially what our plan is with the pizza boxes is to put them in a big kiln, which is essentially just a metal ring, set that on fire, get it really hot, keep adding pizza boxes to it. So we're trying to avoid the boxes from like burning up and floating off. We don't want smoke or anything. We want all of the like organic matter that is in the pizza boxes to stay in the kiln. So just superheat it through a process called pyrolysis, which is just decomposition of organic matter through really high temperatures in the absence of oxygen. So we want to burn off all the oxygen, whatever else is in there, and only leave the carbon, which is essentially what this is. It's just carbon. And then we quench it with water, turn the process, the heating process off basically. And what we're left with is this. And we can then go add it to our restoration sites. You can even add it to filters to help like clean water as it's running off land. So we work with the Pullman Disposal Services. And we've installed biochar into some of their slopes that is like helping them pass water quality checks for the first time in a while, which is really amazing. So it's a super versatile material. If you buy like toothpaste that has charcoal in it or face wash or whatever, it's the same stuff that's in there as well. So incredibly versatile. As far as we're interested in, it's for soil, but there's a lot of uses for it beyond even what we are talking about right now.
Awesome.
Did I forget anything?
No, that's great.
Okay,
I do.
perfect.
I wonder if because you just described kind of like a like in real life example using it with Pullman Disposal Services and doing filtering. Are you guys doing any, or do you have any other projects like that on the horizon, or do you have any other like examples or anecdotes of how it's being used in other places across the world, potentially even in your projects in Madagascar?
Yeah. So, thank you. Good. All right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I totally forgot about like what I do with it. Yeah, as far as Pullman is concerned and other opportunities beyond Pullman Disposal Services, currently, as far as I'm aware, We do not have any immediate projects like PDS. We are actively working with landowners to do restoration on their property. So if you know anybody who would like Palouse Prairie in their yard, we can help with that. And so we'll apply biochar there, but always open to other opportunities and collaborations, partnerships like that. As far as how I use it, this can be crushed up into even like finer particles mixed with a paste that's like a mix of water and flour, or in our case, the most abundant material to mix with is cow dung, mashed together into a press and create charcoal briquettes like we used to grill here. And so how you make charcoal briquettes is just mixing basically a powder version of this with water and some adhesive, and then you can dry that out, set it on fire, and cook food with it. And so for us, that help in Madagascar, that helps us reduce deforestation because a lot of people have no other means of cooking food other than with charcoalizing entire logs and branches and stuff. So people go down and cut down trees just so they can feed their families. And by presenting an alternative to that they can make without having to cut down trees, they can just take waste scraps. They can take dried grass. Grass is all over the place. They can charcoalize that, turn it into biochar, and be able to like cook food and also sell it because it burns hotter and longer than just like a twig or a branch that's been charcoalized. So it represents economic opportunities as well, all without having to cut down a single tree. So not only does it incentivize carbon sequestration, which is another point I just totally forgot to mention, carbon, right? As we are entering this century of climate crisis that's almost completely driven by our emissions of CO2 and also methane, but also mostly CO2. Sequestering carbon is going to be an incredibly important thing for everybody to be thinking about. And it's not a silver bullet, but biochar is a great way of storing carbon in soil for hundreds or thousands of years. This takes a very long time to break down. So it can just be added to soil and it can just be left and it's not going to go anywhere. So, and it's also often made with herbaceous material, plants and whatnot, grasses and stuff that like grows really quickly, can be cut, turned into biochar, and then like it grows right back, right? So we're not having to wait on trees or something to grow for 80 years. So it's more of a rapid way of sequestering carbon as well. So it has all these like benefits. It's not perfect. It's very alkaline. So it doesn't work very well in alkaline soils. It's a better additive for acidic soils. It's not perfect in every situation, but it does a pretty good job at what it does in most situations. So we view it as a really valuable tool for a lot of stuff.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you. Cool. Well, I'm going to open it up to the floor, see if there's any questions from the audience. This time for any of our panelists, anything sparked some questions for y'all.
Hi, that biochar stuff, that's really interesting. So when there's not cool stuff going on at Ruby Street Park where we can bring our pizza boxes, is this something that like we should be doing at home? Like, is it as simple as just saving pizza boxes and like burning them over a fire? I don't know if that's simplified, but
I will say, all right, so there are laws in place that do get in the way of people being able to do this themselves. I don't know them specifically or what the transition is between to having like a backyard like bonfire that is completely legal. Of course, if there are burn bans in place, you shouldn't set anything on fire. But assuming all that's okay, at some scale, the transitions to actually you need permits to do it. So what I would say is that, that's what we're working towards of getting a facility or having events like this more regularly so that we can take those off your hands so you're not having to do it yourself. So I would not recommend doing that right now at this time.
can I ask another question? Yeah, thank you.
Can
So
I add on to that just
sure.
briefly? Okay. And again, so you didn't overlap with Chris, and I didn't totally understand it. There's some arcane legislative thing that these boxes that we're collecting on Saturday actually are being trucked in a U-Haul across state lines to Idaho, where they will be converted to biochar. It's a name brand kiln. Chris has said it to me in and out. I don't know, but it's not as simple as just burning it, because there are certain temperatures and ways that they do ensure that the environment for burning is like a low oxygen environment. If you didn't achieve that correct low oxygen environment, it would not be an efficient conversion process. So it is currently not that simple, but I believe that Chris is actually interested in working at the legislative level to change what's going on because generally we think of Washington as being more environmentally friendly than Idaho. And so it is odd that currently right now this process is not allowed in Washington. So not me, I shouldn't say we're, Chris is working on exploring options. So, but the best thing that could happen is if Saturday is successful, it will show us that there is interest and demand in something like this, such that ESA would say next year, yes, we want to do this event again, or maybe we want to do it twice a year, or maybe we want to do it once a month or something like that. But I don't think it makes sense for individuals, certainly, to be conducting their own biochar burning. But that's a great question.
Yeah, go for it.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think pizza boxes, so you can't throw them away, or most people do throw them away, but you can compost them, correct?
Not animal waste.
Not animal waste?
It's not supposed to go in. It's not supposed to be composted.
Oh, well, I was going to give a quick plug to the Environmental Science Club, because they have composters. So WSU composts, and there's not a lot of options right now. We're trying to work on that for students to compost in the dining halls or, in the dorms or the apartments. But the Environmental Science Club has made a whole bunch of different composters. They're about like this big. They're pretty small. What you can do is you can take one. They're in Fulmer 204. There's a whole bunch of them. You can just take one. Anyone can go in there and take one. And you go back to we used to have one. You just we put it outside our apartment. And then we have like a banana peel or something. You throw it in there, and then over a course of a month or two, that'll turn into basically compost, and it will secrete this liquid that's really nutrient dense. And so if you have plants, you can go and water your plants with that liquid, and it'll really, really help them. And then the rest of the compost you can ship off to just the WSU compost, which should be less than a 10-minute drive away from wherever you live on campus. So quick plug. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of fed directly into my next question. Was what it was just going to be like. I think in this country there's kind of an issue with reactive policy, and at this point with like the climate crisis, that's not something that we can afford anymore. So I was just going to ask, like, what are things that we can be doing at home to things like that, to be combating the climate crisis and CO2 and stuff like that.
I cannot take that even further. Yeah, I love this question. Thank you. So yeah, no, what you said is right on the ball. There's a whole bunch of stuff that students want to be doing just as individuals who live around and who are going to be living in this world, just to make their lifestyle, more environmentally friendly. And I think there's a lot of things you can do. The simplest things can be like getting the habit of turning the lights on when you leave the apartment, or taking 5-minute showers instead of 10. Those go a long way. Don't step as hard as you can on the brake or the gas when you're driving. That kind of thing also goes a long way. Filling your tires with air is another thing. But at WSU specifically, the composters is just one example of how students can get involved with what certain clubs and organizations are doing, every day to try and do some really cool programs. So like the Environmental Science Club that I just gave a really example of stuff they do. ESA is doing a whole bunch of stuff. One of them is a fossil fuel divestment campaign, which is probably our biggest, most broad way to impact climate change and give our, our piece to solve the climate crisis. Because lots of schools, including WSU, invest in fossil fuels, and so we're trying to get them to take that money out and put it somewhere else, which is a really difficult process. And WSU is being very cooperative with our campaign, which we really appreciate. But just signing the petition that we have for that is another thing. Or you can come to ESA meetings and then throw in an idea, and then maybe ESA can use their resources to do that idea. So like going to meetings, forming habits, just finding those opportunities at WSU. There's a lot of stuff you could do. And it depends on how much time and resources you have. So obviously not everybody's going to have to go 100% all the time. That's not the point. But we can also talk more afterward, but there's a lot of stuff.
Also just sort of add to that, and all that's absolutely fantastic. And it's sort of like a question of scale in terms of like what can individuals do versus organizations, entities, and whatnot. The way that this works is at a much larger scale than individuals can directly engage with, in terms of like making in their backyard or whatever. Like you wouldn't recycle any of your own, whether it's paper or plastic or whatever, in your backyard either. The way that this works is going to be if we can do it at large scales, and there's not much for individuals to directly do. And we're not expecting anybody to go out and like lobby their state reps or anything, or go like bug anybody about like, why don't, as a citizen, like, why don't we have biochar facilities? That'd be great. I'm not telling you not to do that, but we don't expect people to do that. The way that we get there, though, to make those changes, is to have lots of participation in the events that we are putting on. So, if this event on Saturday is super successful, and we hope that it is, then, that not only does that say like, all right, we can turn all those cardboard boxes into biochar, and that's good. It's also a piece of evidence that we can point to in the conversations that we're having at higher levels. Like, look, this is, we had a lot of participation. We can do this at scale if we have these legislative changes or policy changes, whatever it is. And that's also super beneficial. So just like spreading the word about this, saying like, hey, if it's pizza boxes, but in the future, very much planning on expanding that if we can to any kind of cardboard, paperish material. So, yeah.
Other questions?
It's just a simple question. I don't know if you already touched on it, but what time is the event on Saturday? Is it just all day?
Noon to 4.
Noon to 4 in the park? Okay. That's all I was wondering.
Good question. If you guys want to just pop that one on.
Just like you said, noon to 4. And there's also a cleanup at 10 a.m. There's also a climate rally at 4. So if you come to Ruby Street Park at any time between like 10 and 5 p.m. on Earth Day, Saturday, there's going to be something for you to do. There's also shifts for volunteers that last 2 hours, so noon to 2 and then 2 to 4. I believe there's a couple spots left. So if you want to go on Give Pulse and do something this Earth Day, that's something. Just a quick follow-up.
Yes, going on Give Pulse is always an option.
Maybe we should describe what those volunteers would be doing. They'd be processing the boxes, flattening the boxes, taking any food waste out of the boxes, any of those plastic pizza tables, and then binding the boxes into stacks like that are approximately a cube, and loading them into the truck with Phoenix Conservancy and doing other activities with Phoenix Conservancy. So it should be pretty hands-on. Also probably helping us with organizing the drawings, helping people sign up for the prize drawings and things like that. So it should be a staff of about 10 volunteers working at any given time. It should be a lot of fun.
I had a fun question that I was thinking about during your talk. I know like legislation and stuff, but is there a possibility that one day I might be able to like donate my body to become biochar?
I'm not currently aware of those processes, but also composting human bodies is also brand spanking new. So I would not like, I'm not going to say no. That absolutely. Hopefully, you've got a lot of years ahead of you, so that if those changes do happen, they happen beforehand. If that's something you're interested in.
Any other questions from the audience? Dave's getting his steps in. Go, Dave.
Would you guys be interested, like, let's say we have like paper bags that we got from like McDonald's that were like greased up. Would you recommend we bring those as well, just to add, or just pizza boxes this time?
For this event, we're going to focus just on the pizza boxes, but it's such an appropriate question because when we sat down and envisioned where this could go in the future, ideally in the future, it will focus on napkins, the bags, every part that's not a plastic coated product, but every part that really is a biomass type product we're envisioning would be accepted in something like this. But for Saturday's event, it's really just the pizza boxes. Keeping it simple. Thank you, though.
So after it gets turned into charcoal, do you guys sell it, or what happens with that?
Yeah, great question. In the long run, our plan is absolutely yes. We want it to be a resource, but also a way of generating funding. There are companies that do sell it. I think it goes for, you can buy, there's a company in Seattle, or it's not Seattle, Spokane, that sells it for around $100 per cubic yard. It's quite expensive. And then that's just buying it. You have to pay for transportation costs and whatnot. There's currently no local production of this material. So yes, that's what we'd like to work towards. Both in terms of acting as a funding mechanism for our organization, because it relates directly to our mission, but also, it's a free market. Other businesses can pop up who are interested in as well, but people need to know that it's possible to do that and that it can actually make money, and it can. So that is, a long term.
Sorry, I keep adding on. When Chris and I talked about this event, so going back to my focus on the College Hill neighborhood, the neighborhood association, and bringing opportunities for people to engage at the neighborhood level, the way Chris has envisioned this, some of this biochar is going to come back to College Hill specifically because all the resources are coming from Ruby Street Park on College Hill. Symbolically, we're going to come back with some biochar. If you know Ruby Street Park, you know that there's a center tree with some benches in a circle around it. And there should be like flowers in the spring. And so we're planning to come back and amend that soil in Ruby Street Park with some of the biochar that is produced from this event. And that is kind of a vision for creating a full circle process there.
No, I was just going to add to that one of the great things about that process is it keeps it in a local sense, as far as instead of waste getting shipped out to wherever, get shipped down to the Columbia, then ported over. It's having the ability to have these resources that are part of our community stay within our community for a net gain or a net positive. So in keeping with that sort of Earth Day spirit of sense of place and where we're at, a simple action of, oh, I brought my pizza boxes here, that's helping that community sort of grow and become healthier. So.
And the last thing, none of this biochar is going to be sold. I just want to make that clear. You're not basically giving us money. We're not in at that stage yet. So I think I misunderstood the question a little bit, but short term, no. Long term, yes.
Just one quick follow-up. If one were to get one's hands on some biochar, how would they go about actually utilizing it in their yard?
So pretty simple. Sprinkle it. Sprinkle. You cover however much area you want it in with, I'd say maybe a half inch to an inch thick sort of layer, and then you just rake it into the dirt, essentially. It's just getting it to be a part of that sort of top layer of soil is all it takes.
Other questions?
I wonder if while we're waiting, while people continue to mull over their questions, Nathan, maybe, and Allison also go back to like the first question about how those small little things that you can do like in your house and your day to day that you feel make a difference in the environment, or little strategies that you may use, little local like tips and tricks of places to bring things like recycling and things like that. But yeah, I don't know if you two had wanted to add anything to that initial question.
You know, when Nathan had his position coordinating or communicating among all the different groups that were focused on sustainability, that position, Nathan is no longer in it, but there are a lot of little things happening, and it would be great if more groups were working together and talking to each other and getting coordinated, because I can say, just wearing the hat that I wear, the hats, plural, I can see things happening at the neighborhood level. Like in the College Hill neighborhood, there's a church that every Saturday collects glass jars, because I don't know if you're familiar with the Pullman disposal system and recycling, but glass is not recyclable. And so glass now just has to go in the trash. But this church collects on the last Saturday of every month all the glass. It goes all in a big truck, and then they take it out to the Whitman County landfill, and there it gets converted into road material. It gets ground up like gravel and things. And now they've expanded it to the lids that go on glass containers, you know, so there's those little things. The situation with food composting is a huge need. If you've read the Yale climate study, food waste is one of the biggest contributors to climate change that there is. And so we have to get a handle on this. Those of us who've been working in the community a while, like we participated in the Pullman Comprehensive Plan, it's in there as a plan goal that says that in Pullman we will have a way to handle food waste, but we currently do not. And so we need more people talking about it, like at a forum like this, more student activism. Students are like over half the population of Pullman. If more people were organizing and talking about things, there would be more urgency and accountability at the local level, like at city council, that could make things happen. City council has a contract with Pullman Disposal every year. That contract gets reevaluated, and it specifies what the terms of services are. City council has the ability to tell Pullman Disposal to offer certain services that we currently don't have. So if you came from the west side, you probably enjoyed the ability of composting your food scraps that we don't have here. That could change. That just takes enough people talking about it. So I don't know if those are little tips and tricks, but I mean, I'm very passionate about this and working with students to help, you know, achieve these visions.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Thank you, Allison.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, that's a great description of that. And I think one of the biggest things that, you know, as I've come to terms with it and many of my peers, is it's really exhausting at times just to think of, like, I want to recycle. I want to do what are actions I can take that help, because I am concerned about these things. But when you think about the global scale of climate change, it seems what much can one action do and then being able to feel daunted by that and then be sort of paralyzed by indecision. And that's a hard thing to do. But through a lot of organizations and seeing the work that various groups are doing within local communities through WSU actions, through your peers, fellow students, advisors, seeing those types of actions of composting bins, of glass drop-offs, and seeing that the systems may be inefficient, they exist, but there's always an avenue for change to push for that. We can recycle glass, but it can be better. It can be more efficient. Who do we talk to? How do we get that going? And talking to yourself, talking to your peers, those within city council, and just pushing for those systems of change, which can be exhausting, but as a group, that's where those sorts of change can happen.
Yeah. So one thing I like to tell people when they ask me this kind of question of like, what's like one little small thing I can do for the environment? Try eating vegetarian once a week, maybe twice a week, or vegan. Who knows? Maybe you'll like it. But that will actually slash your carbon footprint considerably. I don't think people realize the power of habits and their decisions, especially for students. I mean, like, all you students in the room are probably going to live at least like what, another 50, 60 years. So imagine like 50 and 60 years of habits that are, you know, just environmentally friendly. Like, think how huge that is. That's pretty insane. And especially as you grow into jobs, and we're all college students, we're probably going to get pretty good jobs. The power of your power is going to grow as with your salary as well, because you also make decisions with your money. You know, your dollar is a lot of power in this country. And so just thinking about the impact you can have over decades is pretty huge. So if you start developing those habits now, I mean, that's just only going to grow. So
Thanks, Stevie. To add on to that, if instead of individuals choosing to eat vegetarian once a week, what if ESA or ASWSU lobbied food service to offer only meatless Mondays? It's a huge change, you know, just then it really makes an impact. So
That's awesome. Thanks, Allison. Colin, did you want to share a little?
Well, I guess like echoing all that, but you know, like empowering individuals to make decisions through systems that makes a difference. I think what we're focused on generally is finding systems and structuring them so that individuals can make choices that actually make a difference and matter. So, like, I mean, using the biochar example, if we had a system in place that was like a recycling program or like a composting program that took waste and turned it into biochar that was picked up along with your trash recycling or whatever, people can choose to participate in that, but there's a system there that collectively makes a much stronger, greater difference than any one person or household that would convert their own waste into biochar or recycling or whatever it is. So it's kind of a combination of like how do we like empower people and systems to make the like biggest possible change.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? No? Okay. I think that's all that I have for you guys. Was there anything, any kind of final comments, any final thoughts that went unsaid that you guys wanted to share? Go for it.
I will say that Phoenix is around and we do more than just this. So if you need volunteer hours or anything, we always accept help with our restoration activities locally. We also have internship programs. So if you or somebody you know is looking for like a semester-long internship, we have those. I'm not entirely sure if we're doing hiring right now. I'm not the person to ask for that, but be on the lookout for us generally. Yeah.
Awesome.
Something that I would close this with, and for me, is it can feel very isolating as a student on WSU that the campus is your environment, but within the entities that exist here in Pullman or on the Palouse, there are a lot of you're part of a larger community, and the ability to engage with that can broaden your experience here as a student, as well as prepare you for whatever future life you have wherever you move. If you stay in Pullman, if you go out to a different city, that ability to learn how to engage with a community through various different types of activities is a great skill to have.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. You guys can find information about Pizza for the Planet, Phoenix Conservancy, College Hill Association, etc. on GivePulse. So don't forget to check there. And just thank you all so much for your time today. I feel like we all learned a little bit about how to take an interest in your values and turn it into something larger, a collaboration, a project, and systems change to help the environment. So yeah, thanks to our panel. Give them a round of applause. Thanks for coming, everyone.
And just one last thing. It doesn't have the gravity of anything else that was talked about today, but it will help you get your hour of service for participating in this event. So if everyone could take a selfie of themselves or have a friend take your picture, you'll just submit that along with your impact in GivePulse, and we will verify your hours. Thanks, everyone, for attending.